We know the symptoms people are dealing with, where you just know, man, I can't handle these stressful things. Like things that I used to just take in stride and handle and fix and deal with, I find they're just beating me down. It's one after another. They're, boy, I've been sleeping okay. I've been able to work out, but I'm just tired all the time, or every afternoon I'm crashing. You don't need to have an official diagnosis to know that maybe there's something going on with your adrenals, and maybe a supplement, something mild, can step in and see if it helps you.
This is Generation Health. We bring you the latest news, cutting-edge research, and time-tested best practices helping you live a longer, healthier life. Sitting with Dante DiMatteo. We're on the wrong side of the table. I'd like to apologize.
You're on the wrong side of the table.
I am on the wrong side of the table. This is not how this is supposed to happen. Dante DiMatteo, PharmD. How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm good. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm your host. That's Mike number 3, Josiah Schweinberg.
Hello.
Hello, our engineer, who recently ran a long ways. Half marathon?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 12 miles or something. How long is that?
13.1.
13 point.
Yeah, come on, get it right. The
that's
sticker.
it.
You got
13.1.
Sticker, yeah.
13.1. Why is the bigger question. Why would you do that? Why would you run?
It's a blast.
Yeah?
It's a lot of fun.
Is it?
It is.
So you ran the Pittsburgh half.
Pittsburgh half marathon.
How many is this now for you?
This would be my 4th one in a row.
4th one in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
4th ever.
Mm-hmm.
And what did your training look like for this one? Were you running much before it?
I wish I would have trained more. No, I did not. So the longest run, I started off really well, like back in August, September.
That's right. We were going to do that. It was a whole thing.
I know. I didn't want to bring it up because and in a previous episode, I was going to be held accountable to run the full. And you guys never brought it back up to me, so I was able to let it. So
I forgot.
Me and a group of buddies, we set out, who I've ran with before. One set of guys ran the full. The other guy just PR'd the half this year. But so I've been running with them leading up to the marathon, and the longest I'd put in was in December, and it was 8 miles. Was my longest run. And then through the holidays, January, I just fell off. I fell off my running routine and rhythms.
So the last few months, you just haven't done.
I haven't really done anything consistently, no.
And then you just thought, yeah, I'll just go run 13.1 miles.
Were you already signed up or did you sign up?
I signed up late. I signed up late.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I signed up late. It was like 6 days. I signed up so late that like when you go to the marathon like convention to pick up your bib and everything, they have like all the names registered on this massive wall. My name wasn't even on there.
You were just a number.
I wasn't even on there because I signed up so late. And I was just like,
you couldn't even customize your bib. That's the best part.
I couldn't. Everyone had a customized bib. I just had like a sticker in the corner.
We've got some good custom bibs.
It's in the
yeah,
car.
we won't be sharing those. If you see certain people from the pharmacy out running the marathon, don't read their bib. You might be scandalized.
Yep. So 4th half marathon, didn't really train much for it.
How was your time?
I did the whole thing was about 2 hours, 17 minutes. So 13 miles in about 2 hours, 17 minutes. So it was like 2:20, 2:30 pace.
Wow. And how is that compared to the previous 3 years?
I PR'd for the worst.
Okay.
Me and my buddy, we both put PRs. His was the best. Mine was the worst. Yeah. The first year I ran, I trained well and was conditioned for it. Second year, not so much. Third year, hardly at all. And this one, even worse.
So has your performance declined every year?
Yeah. I haven't trained as consistently as I did the first year.
Would it be safe to say that perhaps you could use a coach?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
There was I was getting advertisements for all these apps, like all these training apps and stuff. I'm like, I don't need this. I'll get out there, man. Yeah. I probably could have benefited from something because, you know, the one thing and Dante, I remember us talking about this a while ago. Mm-hmm. But mixing up, on those off days. So you put in your scheduled runs or whatever, which could be a little monotonous. And those off days, doing some other sort of like, trail hiking, running, biking, or some other sort of mixed cardio. That's what I had really like unlocked things for me. It's like, man, I don't have to hit the pavement every day. Like I can take the dog for a hike and put on a weighted vest, or I can ride a bike. And I just, man, my schedule went wacky. And so this year I didn't have time to do any of that, which is an excuse. You make time for what you want to make time for. And I just didn't. So
yeah.
Needed a coach to kick me in the pants probably to get me going.
No, I mean, when you're talking about performance optimization, sure, I think that it's beneficial, but I just like that there's this thing every year that you essentially now look forward to, and regardless of your current performance level, what I can tell, it just still sounds like you always believe that you're able to do it, right? Like, was there ever a time where you're like, oh man, I don't think I could do this. I don't think I could finish.
I mean, this year I said, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just walk.
Yeah.
Like, at least I'll finish.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. That's really awesome. I still, High Rocks is pretty popular now, and there's different other events and stuff, but I have yet to see an event in Pittsburgh and honestly in other cities that really riles people up like this and inspires some good physical activity, action towards physical activity. So I think it sounds like it's working. It works for you, Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It is.
People come out, cheer. There's, funny signs everywhere. The kids are there cheering. They're handing out, people, you've ran it before. Mm-hmm. People are handing out, candy, gummies, all kind of like stuff on the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I think I read this year between the amount of participants and the people who came to like cheer on, there was over 200,000
Wow.
people.
Man,
See,
man.
it's
Throughout Pittsburgh.
Tyler has to do it next year.
Oh gosh.
He has to. That would be awesome. Get the family up here.
It's a great day for the city of Pittsburgh.
Dante, we have a wonderful little study about the impact of fitness coach behavior on exercise motivation, commitment, and enjoyment. A longitudinal study. I can't ever say that word. There's a lot of words I can't say. This was published in PLOS One. I thought this was super cool. When you sent this to me, I read it. I had a lot of fun learning about this. What's this all about?
So this was just a throwaway piece.
Yeah.
You wanted to ask me about that, not because you're interested, but
no, I'm
segue into
not at all
throwaway
interested.
piece.
Do not care about you. We're going to edit all of that down to 30 seconds.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, as the title implies, they wanted to see how much of an impact can a coach really have on, whether or not somebody sticks with exercise. And spoiler alert, it usually does matter.
It's shocking.
It's not just, it's not that if you don't have a coach, then that's the end of the world.
Right.
But if you find yourself on the fence, you can afford it, it's within your reach, then it can certainly help. And hey, maybe that even means just finding somebody that's interested in exercising and looking for the free tips too.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I think
Absolutely.
any way to find somebody to discuss those things with is useful.
Yeah, a lot of that comes out in some of what they're saying. I thought, I did a lot of this without meaning to when I was getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. So in general, as many of these exercise papers do, it just highlights in the beginning just some of the importance, again, of physical activity, just like we've talked about in other segments, not just the physical benefits, but the, psychological benefits, are often understated, I would say. So we know that this is a public health issue in terms of not meeting the recommended exercise guidelines. We just need to try and better understand the factors that influence exercise involvement and adherence. Coaches are just another really, it's easy for anybody to become a coach at this point. It's certainly less rigorous than going to be a medical doctor or a dentist or, whatever the case. So that also doesn't mean that there's not a really important role for the fitness coach in the space.
Yeah.
I would say that in general, what happens is gym memberships go up at the new year and everybody's excited to join. And then there's always that attrition.
Yep.
And the thought is that hopefully working with a fitness coach for a period of time can help reduce that period or reduce that amount of dropout across the board. Some of the main factors for adherence, as we know, adherence is the biggest challenge. What they feel. So the quality of fitness coaches' behavior is essentially highlighted as a factor that can really influence the exercise participants' intrinsic motivation, their enjoyment, their interpersonal behaviors, and all, and the satisfaction basically of all of those psychological needs, which really all need met in order for somebody to kind of stick with it. Talks a little bit about motivation. I thought that was very important. Now, there's certain levels of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation that are required in order to, maintain long-term adherence. And again, we know that the social aspects of exercise are incredibly important too. So the setting is everything. Fitness coach fits right into that social component of exercise. Having somebody alongside you makes the journey all the more worthwhile.
So the punchline here is having a coach who, and again, it was the quality of the coach's behavior is part of what they were studying.
Exactly.
Having a coach who has high quality behavior, who does the right things and suggests the right things, has a major impact on whether or not people stick with exercise over a longer period of time.
Definitely.
That's
definitely what they found. And so the way that they, came to that conclusion is they had about 200 people. This was individuals in Portuguese gyms, included men and women, various age groups. They were doing fitness group classes or just kind of basic, strength and conditioning training.
Yep.
So it was a longitudinal design. Data was collected at 3 different time points.
Okay.
So at the start or at baseline, at 3 months, and then again at 6 months. They chose this design to basically look at how these variables change or didn't change over time based upon their continued interaction with their coach and how their, commitment changed and all that sort of thing. And ultimately then can compare that information to dropouts in the typical, fitness membership.
Space,
Yeah. So in order to quantify some of this important information, they used various validated scales to look at things like, the fitness coach's behavior, specifically the intrinsic motivation of the participant. And then they also assessed the enjoyment through another validated questionnaire. What was also interesting is they did look at, the results of these training programs as well. So it wasn't just purely these assessment-based aspects of how well did you enjoy this? Is the person committed? What was your coach's style, et cetera? It looked at, waist to hip ratio. It tested hand grip strength. There was a sit and reach test looking at flexibility. And then it also estimated VO2 max based on a certain walking test. So it was able to kind of connect all the dots, not just purely the subjective end of things.
Not just did they go or even did they enjoy it, but also did they make progress and improve?
Exactly.
I know I read in the conclusion, it said, in general, the categories with the highest predictive capacity for exercisers' outcomes are competence, enjoyment, and exercise planning and prescription. The results reaffirm the possibility of the fitness coach being considered as an important element in ensuring the spread and sustainability of exercise habits, public health promotion, the expansion of the sector. But I loved the areas of competence, enjoyment, and exercise planning and prescription. That makes a lot of sense. Competence, because when you go into the gym, there's just a ton of weights and gears, and there's all kinds of machines you walk up to, and you kind of go, I don't know what this is supposed to work out. And you can spend 10 minutes trying to figure out how you're supposed to move with it, let alone if you just use free weights or a barbell. So that makes sense. That's kind of what they're there. Enjoyment, that's one that actually I was a little surprised by. And then the exercise planning and prescription, again, somebody who has some experience doing these things can say, hey, no, that's enough bench press for today. We're going to work on your back. We're going to work on something else for a few minutes. That makes sense. But the enjoyment piece, that was really, really cool. I've found that to be true. Having a coach who can keep an eye on all the different numbers that are taking place and changing and start tweaking things for you as you go along, going, didn't seem like you liked that one last time. We're going to try a different movement. Or, hey, we've been doing this one for a long time. We're going to try something new and keep it fresh. We're going to, all those sorts of little changes have made a big impact on my enjoyment of the gym.
For sure.
So,
yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah. Again, another one of those studies that, I'm sure people could poke holes in certain things, but again, it really just does point in the same direction that much of the other research does. And that is, if you are able to, working with a professional, even if it's just temporarily, can really help shape long-term adherence. Again, because even if you are the type of person that, hey, I want to go out on my own and do this eventually, that even maybe that short time, and maybe there's additional research on this, but you're always going to be drawing on that experience that you had with somebody who, provided those guardrails, at least for a time.
It just make you feel competent when you walk in, like you belong there. And that's the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Exactly. So they confirmed their hypothesis.
Always nice.
Fitness coaches' behavior, exercisers' intrinsic motivation, and enjoyment influence health and fitness outcomes and the maintenance of exercise routines.
Very cool.
I mean, hey,
Very
Josiah,
cool. So,
are you ready for next year?
Who's training me? Which one of you?
You don't want me to do it.
I don't know. I've seen some of your run paths.
Spoiler alert. All right, Joey, we are talking about one of our products. We've got Adrenal Advanced Essentials now and Adrenal Calm Essentials.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Tell me about these products. What is going on?
Yeah. So we've traditionally carried 2 products for adrenals, but now we've specialized them. Based on latest research, product information, we now do feel that we're able to target the different phases of adrenal issues.
Okay.
All right. So Adrenal Essentials is what we've carried now for a couple decades. That product is going away. Still a good product, but it contains ingredients that support the adrenals during all 3 phases of fatigue.
Okay.
And maybe at first, just at that statement, you'd say, wow, well, that sounds ideal. The issue with it is that the symptomology associated with those 2 things, and really its relationship to cortisol. Some of the ingredients would raise it, and some of them would lower it, and some people will get into need one or the other depending on where they are. So that's why
able to specialize a little bit more.
Exactly.
Very cool. All
exactly. Right. So we'll start just quickly defining stress. Stress is defined as any disturbance to the body. So that's extreme heat and cold. That's psychological stress, sleep deprivation, work overload, physical trauma, exposure to toxins in our environment. So anything that triggers our body's stress response, okay? Then the body stress response system is the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Prolonged stress triggers the HPA axis, and it consists of 3 stages.
Okay.
Stage 1 is the alarm stage. That's stressed wired phase. 2 is resistance, kind of can be viewed as more of a maintenance. 3 is exhaustion. So basically you've kind of worn out that maintenance phase. That's where fatigue really sets in. So the alarm phase is typically the initial short-lived phase that's associated with the fight or flight response, characterized by elevated cortisol levels. The resistance phase is aimed at helping the body to manage stress after the initial fight or flight response is dissipated. So the adrenal hormones come into play as well here. Cortisol and DHEA is released by the adrenals as well in order to aid, in resistance. The exhaustion phase results in an imbalance of cortisol and DHEA. The symptoms of the exhaustion phase include mental and physical fatigue, nervous tension, irritability, poor memory.
So this makes complete sense. If you think about, oh my gosh, it's a tiger, there's the shock, there's the resistance of, okay, now I'm running away. And then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I had to run away from a tiger.
Exactly. And I think that that's one of those things that I know it's been said before, but it does need emphasized here. I think the way our bodies perceive the tiger chasing you is the way that we receive stresses at work, lots of meetings in a day. And the body, in terms of the HPA axis anyway, there are obviously other things at play related to our neurotransmitters, et cetera. But the way that main functioning, that resistance to stress, doesn't really tell the difference. I'm sure there's some difference in response, but broadly speaking, in the most general way, your body doesn't know the difference. And the response and your cortisol levels are the same. But then that tiger doesn't go away. It's like you've got these tiger insults all day, and then you go home and you've got your home stuff to do. So that's, we are definitely living in a society and in a way that not the way that humans have traditionally lived.
Sure.
And we all do it, and we all have our reasons, of course, but that's really the difficulty and where we are. So cortisol is really the main, that's what we think of when we think of the stress hormone.
Yeah.
DHEA, in a nutshell, has opposing reactions to what cortisol does in the body, related to metabolism, immune functioning, and stress response. So it helps to buffer the effects of cortisol during stress. Not again during that fight or flight phase, but as you get into stage 2 and 3, that's where the DHEA balance comes into play. And what they've seen just in correlative data and evaluation is that a higher DHEA to cortisol ratio is associated with overall better health.
Okay.
So essentially, stress levels and kind of being in that exhausted state and having cortisol out of balance, too high compared to DHEA, when they look back at you, they can see that there are overall just less conditions, less issues with cardiovascular disease, mental health concerns, kind of a myriad of issues that have come. Now, which one's chicken or the egg kind of thing can certainly come into play. This is correlative, but just the association is definitely there.
Sure.
So cortisol increases heart rate, blood sugar levels, blood pressure, breathing rate, and muscle tension. Hence, fight or flight.
Literally primed to get away and survive.
Exactly. It's also designed, broadly speaking, to limit systems that are less necessary to survive during immediate danger. So again, like we spoke about, moments of true danger makes total sense. But when it's work, family stress, this primal type of response is overkill.
Yeah.
The HPA, again, has trouble differentiating that. So whenever you have elevated cortisol for a prolonged period of time, it's been documented, high blood pressure, not in the moment like fight or flight, but you're going to the doctors every 3 months and you have hypertension, you've been diagnosed. Blood sugar imbalances, again, over time. Reduced immune system functioning, you're more likely to get sick. Suppressed thyroid functioning, reduced muscle mass, and sleep disturbances. See an increased risk of these medical conditions, including metabolic syndrome, high cholesterol, cardiovascular disease. Also, mental and emotional health, all associated.
Man.
So DHEA, again, does help to buffer those effects. And so I know it's one of those things. DHEA is available as a supplement, has some evidence behind it that can help, but DHEA is also a precursor to male and female sex hormones. So it just gets a little complicated to just say, well, then I'm just going to supplement with DHEA. There are ways that you can kind of get to really the other end of the equation, which is cortisol, whether depending on what phase you're in, to raise or lower. And that's what we'll get to with the supplements.
Okay.
So cortisol advanced essentials. That is the old name. The new name that we are changing this to, so this is the same product if it's something you're already on, is the Adrenal Advanced Essentials. Okay, it's a combination of vitamins, adaptogenic herbs, and adrenal concentrate that help the body to balance these stress hormones, cortisol and DHEA. This is to support those who are experiencing adrenal-related fatigue due to prolonged stress. So again, those 3 main stages of adrenal functioning, caused by prolonged stress, controlled by HPA axis. The alarm phase, the stress wired phase is 1. 2 is the resistance, the maintenance phase, still very demanding on the body, but you're typically doing okay. 3, the exhaustion phase, when kind of prolonged fatigue can set in. So Adrenal Advanced is designed for those, again, in that fatigue burnout phase. Stage 3, more associated with the fatigue versus phase 1, where it's the wired, anxious, mentally foggy, less able to concentrate, more of that overwhelmed phase.
Seems like most people that are going to be interested in one of these products, that this is the bigger category for most modern folks, I would imagine.
I would think so. But still, you've got a lot of people dealing with just, I know what I've experienced and what we hear a lot is kind of that inability to manage stress in the sense of how you handle certain insults, so to say, or certain, difficulties that come up during the day. You say, well, typically I kind of can roll with that and figure that out and not feel so stressed. Or, boy, I kind of snapped at that person afterwards. So we'll kind of get to that one. But yeah, typically you got people coming to you after that and they're just, I'm exhausted all the time. I'm tired all the time. And not that this is the complete puzzle, but it's a good place to start relative to adrenals, especially if you can kind of trace back. Well, yeah, for a while I was feeling that everything stressed me out. And then after that, it was like, okay, but maybe a little bit of fatigue. And then now I feel like I'm tired all the time. So especially once you're talking to somebody or you understand it a little more, you can kind of trace back where this fatigue makes sense versus it being something totally unrelated.
Literally is the other half of the situation. Got it.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Right. So we'll start with the adaptogenic herbs. Rhodiola root extract is the first one. It's widely used in Europe and Asia. Helps support mood regulation, mental clarity, work performance, also the sleep cycle. This one is primarily functioning and preserving normal levels of neurotransmitters. So dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. So we're kind of going outside of the DHEA. Cortisol balance with this one, but you'll see these are very multifaceted products. So we're going maybe with a little more of the manifestation and the way you feel, how to manage it. So there was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study of 161 college students, related to tests, et cetera, the high-stress environment. So they gave, it's, again, placebo-controlled. So some got rhodiola, some got a placebo, and the rhodiola group experienced significantly less fatigue, also saw improvements in mental performance, mood stability, and also their sleep patterns.
Fantastic.
There's eleuthero root extract, widely used in China, supports memory, stress resilience, and mental and physical fatigue. So they found with this one and another double-blind placebo-controlled study, reduced heart rate in response to stressors in the eleuthero group versus the placebo group. They also found improved endurance during running. So that's where the mental and physical endurance and resistance to fatigue comes in. There's the Schisandra berry extract, widely used in China and Russia. Studies have demonstrated it increases nitric oxide, increases circulation, mildly lowers blood pressure. Also, studies have shown positive effects on learning and memory. Licorice root extract. This one's getting a little more kind of down into the science of cortisol, but it is an inhibitor of the enzyme that deactivates cortisol. Okay. So when you got active cortisol in your body breaks it down into cortisone. What licorice root extract does is it helps to block that enzyme so more of it stays active. It's not necessarily helping you produce more, it's keeping more of it active. Then there's also a vitamin blend that's just, whenever you look at a product like this, it's great to have the herbs. Those, are the main drivers. But if you're missing the fundamental pieces, such as the nutrients, then you're obviously behind the 8 ball there. So adrenal gland functioning, especially synthesis of cortisol itself, and again, we're dealing with the fatigue component here, is dependent on proper levels of vitamin B complex and vitamin C. Under stressful conditions, your body is using these up more. So they replace their water-soluble vitamins. So even if you're eating pretty decent, still can have some extended period of time without them on board during stressful environments. Recommended dosing on this is 2 capsules at a time. Where it does become individualized, some patients don't really experience as much afternoon fatigue. Some people just find they simply crash in the afternoon, just depending on where you are. So you can, if you find it's all day, 2 twice a day, 2 morning, 2 afternoon. If it's more of a afternoon issue, just skip the mornings. I know some people are kind of wired and ready to go in the morning and then they fade, then you're just an afternoon person. So really individualize this to you. It's not one you want to do at night due to the kind of, especially the licorice root, kind of that deactivation of cortisol component there. So you would want to do this morning and afternoon. If it's all day, just morning if you're more of a morning fatigue, or just afternoon if it's more of that crash.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that's the adrenal advanced essentials. The adrenal calm essentials, that's the other one?
Yes. Adrenal calm essentials. This is a new product. designed to calm the adrenal response and calm those who are under high levels of stress and manifest it in symptoms of feeling wired, anxious, mentally foggy, generally just overwhelmed by daily stressors, inability to handle the stressors of the day. So we have those three components of the HPA axis and how it manages stress. Alarm phase, this is prolonged and extreme cortisol elevation before you move into 2. That's where Adrenal Calm Essentials comes on. Again, that's that stressed wired area versus number 2, where you're more in the resistance or maintenance, a lot of demand on the body, versus 3, where you've got the fatigue. This is more in that, this is for that early phase.
Got it.
So Adrenal Calm Essentials contains a blend of adaptogens, adaptogenic herbs, and nutrients. This blend is designed to reduce cortisol levels, okay, and also to promote a sense of calm via effect on neurotransmitters. So first ingredient we'll discuss is L-theanine. It's a natural amino acid found abundantly in green tea, has been shown to improve stress perception, resilience, and concentration. Also increases serotonin levels, which are calming to the brain, and dopamine levels, which are generally associated with a feeling of well-being. Double-blind, placebo-controlled study shows that it also increases alpha brain waves. We know a little bit less about these relative to our neurotransmitters. That those alpha brain waves promote a sense of relaxation and also increase attention. You'll see this used in ADHD also. Further, L-theanine decreases glutamate, which is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. So again, we're talking about adrenals. Why are you talking about all these neurotransmitters? This is, again, for the specific early phase of some adrenal issues and fatigue where you're wired, you're anxious a lot. That's where L-theanine comes in. Phosphatidylserine. It's a phospholipid found in high concentrations in the brain. It has been shown in studies of subjects under stress, all 3 phases, physical, emotional, or mental, to decrease cortisol excretion. So by decreasing that cortisol excretion, you then pull the balance back within relative to DHEA and cortisol with each other, can experience less of that wired feelings, those anxious feelings.
Makes sense.
Bacopa is shown to improve memory, learning, attention, and focus. This has activity at the serotonin receptor. It's also a potent antioxidant that can dampen the longer-term effects of prolonged stress and prolonged elevated cortisol.
All right.
Ashwagandha has been shown to support mood regulation and calm while under stress. Also supports immune function, thyroid function, and regulates sleep cycle. Rhodiola, another adaptogenic herb used widely in Europe, also in Asia, supports mood regulation, mental clarity, work performance, and regulates sleep cycle. Also has been shown to preserve levels of neurotransmitters in the brain, namely serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. Eleuthero root extract, widely used in China, supports memory, stress resilience, both mental and physical fatigue. The dosing on Adrenal Calm Essentials, 2 capsules at a time, 1 to 2 times per day. This, again, knowing what you're using it for, more for that wired stress. If your mornings are crazy, make sure you get it in the mornings. If it's all day, do it 2 twice a day, morning and afternoon. If it's more as you go throughout the day where you're really feeling the stress, the day is worn you down, so to say, just take the 2 in the afternoon. So it's really up to you. Fit that in, but always 2 at a time to get the proper levels of the ingredients. And it's up to you if you're doing it morning or later in the day or both.
Any downside to taking it in the evening other than just hopefully you're not wired at night?
This you can take in the evening.
Yeah.
Because it really just depends, again, with how you're feeling. If nights you have trouble calming, it's a great thing to take in the evening. Certainly have other recommendations that are a little just more strictly neurotransmitter based. But this one you definitely can take in the evening, really just fit it into where you want to do 2 twice a day. And if it makes sense, more for you in the evening versus maybe at work handling the afternoon stress, really just know that this is going to help you promote a sense of calm. So whenever you know that's needed in your day relative to what you're dealing with, go with it those times.
So how is this different from a product like Calm Day or the Calm Quick, where it's intended for an immediate effect?
Yes. So So a product like Calm Day is missing ingredients like phosphatidylserine, which are trying to lower cortisol, because the reason why you may be feeling anxious or stressed may have nothing to do actually with cortisol. Bacopa, ashwagandha, rhodiola, those wouldn't be negatively impacting you if you're stressed. They would just be total overkill. Then on the other end, you're missing ingredients that are purely for calm, like GABA, like 5-HTP. Where there is overlap is L-theanine. So again, that's a good question because there is some overlap here.
Yeah.
You want to be calm, you want to be calm, right?
Yeah.
So L-theanine is in both products because of its effect on neurotransmitters, because of it decreasing glutamate. Something like Calm Day with L-theanine, you're trying to decrease the excitatory and increase the inhibitory, the balance. Sure, that would be useful here, but there's just more at play relative to the cortisol levels.
Okay. All right. And so if I'm understanding correctly, these two products, they're specifically targeted for different things. There's not really a reason why you would want to take both at the same time because they counteract each other in some ways.
In some ways, yeah. I think the way that, just in researching and thinking about it, that I look at that is it is a fluid situation. Now, if you say in a given day you're microanalyzing and, well, I was really stressed at like 10 because this happened and then I was tired at 3, you're going to go a little nuts if you're trying to, fit that into your adrenal profile and a supplement for adrenals. But at the same time, I think it's very reasonable and factual to think that there are phases even within these 3 that we talk about, a few weeks for whatever reason. And sometimes it's because maybe your sleep is a little off. So that's going to throw off the balance of DHEA and cortisol. Maybe there is just a whole lot going on at home or a whole lot going on at work where you spend a few weeks feeling like you're wired all the time versus you're spending these few weeks and you feel like you've had trouble getting out of bed and trouble getting through the afternoon. So it's very reasonable to kind of have both. But what I wouldn't do is say, well, again, this morning was really stressful, so I took the calming adrenal. There's other things you can do for that are not going to have any effect on the adrenals, like a Calm Day, versus, hey, this period of time, I can tell there's something going on and understanding these
You might
two.
transition from one to the other or graduate from one to the other.
Yes.
But you won't be switching back and forth in the same day.
No.
Makes sense.
No, and there is a lot of controversy about what exactly adrenal fatigue is, and is it this permanent state? And I think to me, the way I look at it is we know the symptoms people are dealing with. We know how the HPA axis works. So whether the details of you have this official diagnosis and you take hydrocortisone and you go kind of that far. I'm kind of not speaking to or against that. Yeah. But you're kind of in that middle phase where you just know, man, I can't handle these stressful things. Like things that I used to just take in stride and handle and fix and deal with, I find they're just beating me down. It's one after another. So, you kind of go on that end. Or, boy, I've been sleeping okay. I've been able to work out, but I'm just tired all the time. Or every afternoon I'm crashing. You don't need to have an official diagnosis to know that maybe there's something going on with your adrenals, and maybe a supplement, something mild, can step in and see if it helps you.
That's fantastic. Joey, that is great. I'm really excited once again that we have further bifurcated and differentiated these products to better target the specific issues people are dealing with. That's super cool. That's it for us this week. If you have a question you would like answered, please email it to us. questions@askjoedimatteo.com. That's questions@askjoedimatteo.com. That site is also where you can find out more about this show, the past show, and find all of the products that we talk about on the show, all there on that website. Big thanks as always to everybody that helps make this show happen. And if you learned something, please share it with somebody you know, somebody that could also use this information. That is the best way to help us grow. Have a great week. We'll see you again soon.